There were a lot of great games this weekend, especially for HBCU football, no matter if it's a SWAC or MEAC or any other conference. There were some good wins, bad losses, but I'm going to tell you who did well and who needs to improve. This will not be any sugarcoating. This will be straight to the point. There are a lot of teams that I'm impressed with. Jackson State, they did their thing, of course. North Carolina A&T, shout out to them. They got a win when they were doubted by a lot of people. And North Carolina Central continues to be one of the most consistent teams in the FCS, not just HBCUs. They don't beat themselves, and they're well coached. Oh, it's just getting started, and I'll chime in. What's good, everyone? This is RawTruth Media, giving you the raw content that you deservedly need. Please like and share this video throughout all social media content. Now, I'm going to talk about a bunch of HBCU teams, but let me start off with North Carolina A&T. A lot of folks, and even I got to admit, I was disappointed in North Carolina A&T because I expected more from them. It's no problem with losing to North Carolina Central because North Carolina Central has a star quarterback. They're well coached. They're on a rise. It's just how they have played these past games. But against South Carolina State, I don't know what was said to them. I don't know what motivation speech happened, but it worked. And they beat South Carolina State 41-27. They manhandled them. I know the score is close range, but if you watch that game, North Carolina A&T was very physical. Now, when I did a preview video, I believe a month ago, about North Carolina A&T, I told you about their D-line and linebackers. That's the strength of this team. Also, the running back, Bashul Tootin, that's a bad boy, man. He's a sophomore. In that game, he had 140 yards, rushed 2 touchdowns, destroyed North Carolina State's defensive line, as well as Graves. Wesley Graves did his thing too, and he's a freshman as well. They have recruited well. They have young receivers. Again, North Carolina A&T has to be consistent on offensive identity, that is. You got to know who you are. They're a running team, but you got to be creative in your run plays. Going forward, I expect North Carolina A&T to use this win as motivation throughout the season. They were favored to win the Big South for a reason. Let's see what happens going forward. Now for South Carolina State, here's the thing. They only rushed for 12 yards in this game. Now, if you hold South Carolina State below 100 yards, it increases your chances of winning. But North Carolina A&T held them to 12 yards. That was over. They didn't mind Corey Fields getting that little 300-plus yards because that was part of the game plan to churn out rushing yards, to burn out clock, to win time of possession, to tire out a defense. This is what South Carolina State does. And South Carolina State was playing catch-up the whole game. Now, Shaq Davis, he's a pro. Again, he continues to produce. I'm not surprised. Y'all saw it at the Celebration Bowl last year. He's a menace. He's a line of other South Carolina players. Last year was Jacoby Durant. South Carolina State may have 2 players get drafted, Jaboski Green as well as Shaq Davis. But going forward for South Carolina State, now next week they play against South Carolina. That's going to be a loss, unfortunately. South Carolina's going to be desperate for wins. They're in the SEC, and they had 2 bad SEC losses. They're going to come out hungry. After that, they got Virginia Lynchburg. South Carolina State should win that. And here's the game that a lot of people should go to. North Carolina Central versus South Carolina State. That's on the 22nd of October. Man, I wish there is a way I could go to that game. I'm not going to lie. That's going to be very much of a matchup. Two teams who are trying to win the MEAC. It gets no better than that. And one thing I noticed about North Carolina Central is that they don't beat themselves. But here are the other MEAC scores that I saw. I didn't watch every game. I only watched two. I watched the North Carolina Central versus Virginia Lynchburg game, and as well as the North Carolina A&T versus South Carolina State. But here are the other scores in the MEAC. Norfolk lost to St. Francis of Pennsylvania. I was rooting for Norfolk to pull that off, but Norfolk is 0-4. But they have been playing a lot of good teams, man. So, they played against Marshall, James Madison. James Madison just beat Appalachian State. Hampton by 10, and now they lost to St. Francis, PA. And now next week they have Sacred Heart. So they're a tough team to judge. They're 0-4, but have played a difficult schedule. Delaware State lost to Merrick. They should have won this game. You gotta win your non-conference games if the talent is not that drastically off. I'm sure Delaware State's gonna bounce back. And they got Robert Morris next week. Now Robert Morris is 0-3. They should handle them. Now to the SWAC. I'm starting this off by saying Prairie View A&M, kudos to you, kudos to Bubba McDowell for continuing to prove a lot of people wrong. They doubted the athletes that they had on this team. I'm not totally surprised. Now, I didn't expect the PV defense to be this good. I knew they would be talented. I knew they would be fast and super athletic, but I didn't expect this. They held Alabama State to 15 points, forced a lot of turnovers, made sure that D. Davis didn't pass for over 200 yards. And I've always said this, if PV's offense scores 20 or more, they are tough to beat. When PV, and I'm talking about this year's PV team, when they hit 20 or more points, that's like hitting a lottery for them. Their players and coaches know they're set when that score threshold happens. They're going to be difficult to beat in the West. And the next game they got is against Grambling. And for the Grand fam, I hope you figured it out. I know there's talent on this team. You got to give Hugh Jackson a chance. And now to the next game, Bethune-Cookman and Grambling State. Now the score was 20-19 at the time, Bethune-Cookman. And then drop passes, turnovers, miscommunication plays that resulted in a 36-19 score. Now Bethune-Cookman is a lot better than last year, but still, Grambling State needs to know how to finish out games. And this is not just me saying it, the Grambling fans are saying it. And it's going to take time. Hugh Jackson and the coaching staff, they're calling all the right stuff. It's just that when you have 40 new players and new high school recruits, it's going to take an adjustment period. Now, Bethune-Cookman, the athletes were never a problem. Jalen Jones is fast as hell as a quarterback. This offense suits him well. It's a spread offense, but has run concepts. Bird, the running back, was a beast in this game, 162 yards rushing, nearly 7 yards per carry. And then the wide receivers, for Bethune are fast as you know what. But one thing that I noticed in this game is that Maurice Washington did not play. If Maurice Washington played in this game, I feel very confident it would have made a difference. Now, I know people are going to say that's just one player, but Maurice Washington is a game changer. And if you don't know, watch the film. Alcorn versus Arkansas Pine Bluff. The final score was 38-21. Alcorn State, they're 2-2, could have been 3-1. But they have a running back from a transfer from Syracuse, Jarvion Howard. Man, this brother rushed for 295 yards and 4 touchdowns, had a 78-yard run. He is difficult to stop. And these running backs that they have between Jarvion Howard and Nico Duffy they're making a case as one of the best running back tandems in the SWAC, not only the SWAC, but HBCUs, not only HBCUs, but the FCS. They're led by their quarterback, Allen. Now, Allen was very conservative in this game. He did complete 18 out of his 23 passes for 84 yards, but it was conservative. But he didn't lose them the game. I've always said Allen can manage the game, but not lose them the game. But when he's on, he's on. The Alcorn defense is as good as advertised. And I'm not surprised because Alcorn State, one thing you could say about this team is that they will play hard for Coach McNair. I guarantee it. Now, Texas Southern played against UTSA. Everybody knew this was going to be a win for UTSA, 52-24. But Texas Southern impressed me in this game. They were making plays. They kept it in striking distance, but depth, you know how it is in the FBS, took over. Texas Southern is a team that is catching their groove, and if they develop the consistency of stringing out wins like they had last week, they could be that wild card team in the West. Andrew Body is as good as ever times. He's a leader. He's a playmaker. They have a slew of running backs in Howard and Ladarius Owens. And remember, the young freshmen, I think it was like 60 freshmen that played last year. Now they're sophomores. Now they're getting acclimated to the coach's scheme and they're a lot older and wiser. Any team that plays against Texas Southern, it's going to be a long day. Now, people are overreacting from the first game, but like I said earlier in this video, Carolina A&M is better than what people thought they were. And to FAMU versus Alabama A&M, what did I tell you guys? Don't overreact over the first game. After the bye week, FAMU looks very relaxed, comfortable. Jeremy Musa threw for 343 yards and 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. I would like for FAMU to utilize Jennings and McLeod more in that game against Alabama A&M. If they would have established the run game more and would have not overpassed, this game could have been even, like, they could have really extended the lead. That's just what I think. But Xavier Smith and company did their thing. FAMU, if they went out their whole schedule, would not be surprised at all. Again, this is a lesson to everybody. Let's not overreact on games. Jackson State is that good. Now they're seeing, look at what they did to Valley. Jackson State didn't even have their top game, and they won 49-7. I'll talk about them after this. But Alabama A&M, I don't know what is wrong with this team. They had all these transfers, and it's not materializing. And then they had their head coach said it's all about winning the SWAC, and they're not even winning enough in the SWAC. I'm not trying to be harsh on Alabama A&M. I'm just disappointed because I expected better out of them. I actually thought that they were going to improve drastically on offense and defense. And this is a lesson for all of us again, that just because you recruit a bunch of transfers, and Alabama A&M had a record amount, by the way, doesn't mean they're going to fix all your problems. Now, I know there's injuries and offensive line injuries. We get that. But they had a lot of depth recruited that's not panning out. And it's all about recruiting the right players who are about winning. Now, it's sometimes it pans out, sometimes it doesn't. But Alabama A&M, you got to do better than that. That's all I'm saying. And then we have Jackson State, Mississippi State. Jackson State, slow first quarter. It was like 14-7. Mississippi Valley State scored first, and then once they calmed down, then they handled business, and it was 21-7 in the first half. And then after that, the third quarter, and it's always that third quarter. If anyone told me what's the best quarter for Jackson State, it's the third quarter. They settled down. But here's a scary good part about Jackson State. Shadir Sanders had 425 yards, 4 touchdowns, only 1 interception. The running backs all together, all 3 of them, averaged 200 yards and 2 touchdowns all together. The receivers, Dallas Daniels, 142 yards. Coleman, 76 yards. Hooks, 57 yards. And really, Hooks could have had more yards. It was an off game for him. And then Willie Gaines, Buckley, Trevante Rucker, the list goes on. When Coach Prime, your head coach, says that this game was a C+, it tells you all you need to know his expectations for this team. They are not trying to settle for regular SWAC dominance. Again, like I mentioned earlier in another video, they're trying to have their sights on national football dominance. It's levels to this. And the real ones know, the people who know about football knows this. It's not about how many you win, it's how you win. And I look forward to see the adjustments that Coach Prime is going to do and the coaching staff going to do to fix the first quarter lulls that we've been seeing. This team is talented. They can go another notch. If you don't think Jackson State could go another level, I don't know what to tell you. But their talent is there. This at the end of the day, this is a great win. Anytime you destroy an opponent, you got to celebrate. But this is the new Jackson State. So, again, Coach Prime's goals are higher than fans and haters. And he's not going to switch for anybody. Now to Mississippi Valley State. I like the direction of the team that is going. They found their quarterback. I know he only had 36 yards passing, but he is dynamic, especially as a runner. The running game was good. Mississippi Valley State ran for 181 yards. When you rush for plus 100 yards against Jackson State's run defense, you're doing something right. I trust in Coach Dancy's vision of the team. The administration has to give to him and his squad more. They're going to need more. They're going to need more in that athletic budget to do the things like everybody else is doing in not only HBCUs but in FCS as a whole. But Jamari Jones, he should have been starting from the get-go. I'm not going to change that. Caleb Johnson is as good as advertised. He is a warrior. Rankin, he only had 1 catch for 25 yards and that 1 touchdown. He's got to get involved more. He's too talented to not be one of the top SWAC receivers. Too talented. But maybe Valley can figure it out. They got FAMU next, and FAMU is clicking now. They're clicking, so it's going to be an interesting game. But Mississippi Valley State, they're going to play tough. One thing they're going to do, they're going to scrap. They have some good defensive players. They have Ronnie Thomas. Ronnie Thomas had a sack against Jackson State and many others. But the secondary of Mississippi Valley State, they got to get that shored up. If not, next week against FAMU their receivers are quick as hell. It'll be a field day, so they got to shore that up. But at the end of the day, this was some great HBCU play. I can't wait to see what week 5 is. And tune in to RawTruth Media, giving you the raw content that you deserve and need. Please like and share this video. Peace and blessings, and I'm out.